Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa. Bienvenue à tous à cette rencontre du Comité de dérogation pour la Ville d'Ottawa. As you know, the City of Ottawa has appoints a Committee of Adjustment, which is a quasi-judicial tribunal. And that tribunal, this committee, is mandated to make decisions on certain types of applications under the Planning Act. My name is Anne Tremblay, and I will be chairing the hearing today, but with me are my fellow panel members, Mr. Colin White, Mr. Scott Hindle, and Ms. Kathleen Willis, who I think probably will be joining us in just a couple of minutes. Please take note that this session is being video conferenced and live streamed on YouTube. The video is archived along with tonight's agenda on the city's website, so you can access either one or both at your convenience. Before we begin, we have a number of comments to make regarding the jurisdiction of the committee. So aspects of the proposal that are not before us, so that don't form part of the application, are not issues that we can discuss as part of the application hearing. Also, we don't discuss noise, pollution, property maintenance, or property values, nor prosecution for illegal construction. We also will not entertain any negative comments about neighbors, agents, or applicants. We ask you to be respectful at all times. And finally, if we find during the course of discussions that either an additional minor variance or greater relief to a minor variance is required, then we will need to step down that application to a later hearing date so that we have sufficient time to recirculate the application with whatever change is required. So also as part of the statutory declaration requirements, each applicant is required to erect a sign on the property and to file then a statutory declaration with the committee about that sign posting. So what we will do this evening is we'll do oral declarations, and I will simply read to the applicant, agent, or owner and get their confirmation or their affirmation or swearing that the sign posting was done in keeping with the regulations. So with that, we are still doing digital hearings, as you can see. So if we have an issue with technology where we totally lose quorum, which I don't believe is going to happen, but if we do for whatever reason, then we would simply step down the remaining items to a later hearing of the committee. So you'll notice that at the beginning we had a list of the agenda of the application. So we're going to go through essentially what you saw on the screen. There may be a little change in order depending on whether there are adjournments or applications which are more straightforward than others. In this case, we're not going to be asking for any presentations this evening. So so the committee will ask clarifying questions if they have any of the applicant, agent, or owner. And from there, we'll go to public portions. We do have a speakers list. We have a few people who are registered to speak on some applications. We'll do that. And then I will open it up to the greater audience to see if anybody else would like to speak to any application. So once that's all done, the committee can ask clarifying questions from speakers. And then after that, we will deliberate and go to a vote. If you're not registered and you'd like to speak, I would just ask that you start, please, by stating your name clearly and your municipal address. So once the committee has had a chance to do all that, it's time for a decision. And so, of course, we can grant an application, we can deny it, we can decide to adjourn it if we find that there's a need to do that. And we can always reserve on applications, but I don't believe there's any applications tonight that are going to be that controversial where we may need to reserve. So then once a decision is made, essentially immediately following the adjournment of the hearing, there is a written decision that is provided, and that's within 10 days. And that outlines the formal reasons for the committee's reasoning on the matter, essentially. And then, of course, there is an appeal period to that, a 20-day appeal period, at which time anyone can appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. So with that, I believe we have a couple of items of business. The first one is the confirmation of the minutes. Do I have a mover for adoption of the minutes of September 7th? Ms. Willis, seconded by Mr. Hindle. And so they are adopted. And also for the minutes of September 21st, mover, please. Mr. White, seconded by, need a seconder, Ms. Willis. Thank you very much. So the minutes are adopted. With that, are there any declarations of conflict of interest for any of the items that are either before us tonight or any other panel that met earlier today? And I'm not seeing any, so there's no declarations of conflict of interest for the record, which brings us directly then to our actual items. We're going to start with adjournments. There are quite a few this evening. So we have items. I'm going to start with item number 12 and item number 15 and 16. I just want to confirm through the coordinators that neither Ms. Robichaud or Mr. Wheelmaker are in attendance. You can just confirm that, then we'll go directly to an adjournment. Coordinators, Mr. Wheelmaker, is he there? Ms. Robichaud? I just need confirmation. I know they're not supposed to, but I didn't have a chance to see whether or not they decided to join us.
Yes, they're not in attendance tonight.
All right, thank you very much. In which case, both those applications are being brought forward for adjournment sine die, and that's why the applicants and agents are not here. So I'm just making sure if I've got some speakers that wanted to speak to the item. Just give me a moment. Item number 12. Hang on. All right, nobody for number 12 and nobody for 15 and 16. Is there anyone in the audience then who would like to speak to a sine die adjournment for either applications, 12, which is 26 Evergreen Drive, or 15 and 16, which is 285, 287 York Street? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. So with that, then, members of the committee, all those in favor of sine die adjournment for both those applications? Okay, for the record, the application number 12 for 26 Evergreen Drive is adjourned sine die, as is application 1516 for 285 and 287 York Street. So thank you, that's good. Took care of those two pieces. The next one I'd like to call down then is 9 and 10 for 124 Graton, looking for Mr. Soor. We have Mr. Soor. We've got Mr. Chown. Your hand is raised. Did you want to come forward? Good evening, Mr. Chown. Did you want to speak to the adjournment?
You should have Ms. Soor. Simran Soor is on the call.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Soor.
Don't
Yes.
confuse her with her brother,
Hello.
who also appears before you on occasion.
Ah, that's probably why then. I did get confused with that. Thank you. All right, so on the adjournment, our understanding is that we have an issue with secondary plan on this one, policies. You want to confirm or?
Simran, up to you.
Yeah, we just we're seeking an additional variance for a driveway provision.
Okay, so you need an additional minor variance. There is also an issue with the secondary plan, is there not?
I don't believe staff never mentioned any
Right.
issues with a secondary plan for this application, and I didn't see any in the comments either.
Oh, do I have the wrong application, Mr. White?
Yes,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, we're
Thank you. It's not that, it's just this minor variance. Okay, so if that's the case, and are we going sine die then? Was the request for sine die adjournment on this one?
We were requesting a December 7th adjournment. That's
All
possible.
right, December 7th. Mr. Belmar, can you confirm for me that the date is in fact December 7th and we're not going, sometimes we go to the second week in December and I didn't check the dates.
Yes, Madam Chair, the correct date for the December hearing is on the 7th.
All right, okay, good. In which case, that works. I don't think we're okay with the 7th in terms of the volume of applications.
Yes, there's as there's a recirculation involved, we'll require that documentation in the early part of November.
And that's understood, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at December 7th for that. Do I have any speakers for this? Just give me a second. Yeah, there was a number of speakers from the Community Association on this one. Ms. Wilson, Ms. Pratt, did you want to speak to the adjournment to December 7th? Coordinators, can you confirm that they're present? Yes, Ms. Wilson. Okay.
Hi, we're okay with an adjournment.
Yours, okay. So you support the adjournment to November
Yes.
to
Yeah, we
December
do.
7th?
Yep,
Okay.
that's great. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thanks so much for that then.
No problem.
Any questions or comments from the committee members before we vote? No? All right, so all those in favor then for the adjournment? All right, so for the record, the application is adjourned to December 7th, and that's unanimous. I didn't ask if there was anybody else in the audience, though, that wanted to speak to this adjournment. Okay, didn't see any hands up, so okay, just wanted to make sure that we that I didn't miss that. All right, in that case, then we'll see you, Ms. Sewer, back in December.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thanks so much. All right, so that one's saved. All right, the next one is number.
Taking over.
I beg your pardon? Ms. Wilson? Oh, maybe she was speaking with somebody else. All right, the next application, number 11 for 48 Ryburn. Mr. Bell. Do we have Mr. Bell? Coordinators, can you tell me whether or not?
Madam Chair. Yeah, Madam Chair, I don't see him. If he could raise his hand, I'll bring him in.
All right, Mr. Bell. All right, you know what? We'll stuff this one down. We'll come back to it. We'll see if he, if Mr. Bell joins us a little later. Working back, number 4. Looking for Mr. Alain Bisson for 2687 Paget Road. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Our understanding is that there's quite a bit of information that's still missing that you need to provide to staff in order to proceed with this application, correct?
Yeah, there's an adjournment request to find additional information to support the legal non-conforming rights.
And some non-compliance as well to the zoning bylaw, if I understand that to be correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, all right, so, and we would be looking at an adjournment sine die until all that information is provided?
That's correct.
All right. Mr. White, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if during the intervening time with an adjournment, if we could get some advice from city solicitor, I suppose, and that says to what section of the Planning Act are we working under here? Would it be section 45(1)(2) I or II? I'm not clear what provision we're dealing with here, because I had some concern that sections of the Planning Act deal with expansions of existing buildings, but they don't appear to deal with, I may be wrong, but it doesn't appear to deal with new buildings on the property that is legal non-conforming. So I wonder if we could get clarification on that aspect.
Ms. Clazzaro, can you come forward, please? Hello.
Hi, good
So-
evening.
So Mr. White has quite correctly pointed out that it would appear from the wording of the Planning Act that the permission is really isolated to an expansion of an existing building as opposed to the construction of a new building. So we'd like to have some clarity on that. So what are the operational sections of the Planning Act, as Mr. White has pointed out, and just some assurance that with regards to the permission, the authority for permission, that it extends to new construction on the property.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're still working that out. I've spoken with some legal services staff about this exact issue. We haven't made it as far as which section of the Planning Act, other than the expansion of a legal non-conforming use, but we're still trying to determine whether or not that would apply in this case, and whether or not the use is legal non-conforming. So what I was able to establish from legal services is that a detached dwelling in the DR zone would be permitted to expand, per se, to have a coach house. But whether or not a legal non-conforming use could, whether a non-conforming use could, is still to be determined.
All right. Okay. Well, we got some time to work that out, but it would be nice to see that as part of your planning report, your revised planning report coming forward. Okay. All right. So with regards to number 4, I don't believe I have. Yeah, didn't have anybody on my list to speak to this application. So we're looking for anybody who wants to make comments with regards to an adjournment sine die. If there's anybody in the audience who would like to ask questions, make comments, now's your chance. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody come forward, in which case, committee members, if there's no further questions, then I can call the vote. All those in favor of an adjournment sine die. All right, for the record, that adjournment is granted unanimously. So thank you very much, Mr. Bisson, and good luck.
All right, have a good evening.
You too. Bye now. All right, number 3, which is for 3440 Woodruff Avenue. Looking for Mr. Yakichuk.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening, Mr. Budsick, not Mr. Yakichuk.
Sorry about that. He's away right now. He's at a conference. So
Okay. So we have a request for an adjournment on this application. There's been a revised staff report. Have you had a chance to see it, Mr. Budsick? Okay.
we have.
So we would be looking at an adjournment sine die on this one.
That's correct.
All right.
It's unfortunately I guess difficulties between the current secondary plan and the new official plan. There doesn't appear to be a way forward to reconcile those. The existing secondary plan would prefer we have smaller lots on private services. The new official plan would, of course, following the PPS, prefer that we connect to municipal services. So after discussions with staff, we felt that it might be best until we wait for the new official plan to be in place.
All right. Okay. Any questions from the committee members on this? No? All right. I did have some speakers to speak to the application. Mr. Mac Prescott and Ms. Beverly Cordix. We're only looking at what we're deciding on right now is an adjournment sine die. Would either of you have any comments or questions about that? All right, I'm not seeing Mr. Prescott has raised his hand. Mr. Prescott, did you want to come forward? Okay, Ms. Cordix, I'm not seeing either of you. Like, I see you, but did you want to speak? All right. So with that, then, is there anyone else in the audience who wants to speak to this request for adjournment sine die on the application for 3440 Woodruff? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. With that, then, members of the panel, all those in favor of an adjournment sine die? All right, thank you very much. For the record, it is adjourned sine die unanimously. So thank you very much, Mr. Budzik, and I guess we'll see you once the new official plan is in full force and effect.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
All right, you too. All right, another adjournment. Application number 2 for 1128 Parisienne. Ms. Daewoo?
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening. All right, so you're aware that there's a request for adjournment sine die. There's additional minor variances that are required, as well as some sort of reconciliation between the approved site plan for the minor variances and the 4R plan, which means, I think, a revised 4R plan. You're aware of all that?
Yes, we're aware of that. So this was an application that was approved in June for minor variances, and actually it's received its building permit. So it's gone through all stages of review. It's an unfortunate situation where we proceeded with the minor variance application on staff's recommendation without a combined application for consents, and we had preemptively prepared the draft R plan and separated the variances for lot area requests for each lots at that time, just to make a cleaner application. And the draft R plan that was prepared preemptively did not accurately reflect the proposed severance line, and therefore there's a very slight discrepancy between the lot areas that were approved through the separated minor variances versus what will be in actuality for each lot once the severance lines are completed. And then there is staff comment that one of the garage setback variances was not accurate. So I think we have to have some additional discussion as to whether that interpretation stands, because it was approved again and reviewed by the zoning examiners through the building permit stage as well.
All right. Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Any questions? Not. In terms of speakers, we have nobody listed. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this this adjournment sine die for 1128 Parisienne? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. So panel members, all those in favor of the adjournment? All right, then for the record, the application is adjourned sine die unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Daewoo, and I guess we'll see you again sometime soon.
Thanks very much.
All right, thanks. Bye now. All right, coordinators, do we have Mr. Bell in attendance? All right, we don't have Mr.
We don't appear to have Mr. Bell in attendance yet, no.
All right, so coordinators, did Mr. Bell indicate that he was going to attend or not? Do you know? Either way, maybe nothing.
He did not indicate one way or another about his attendance.
All right, so given that there's quite a bit of information missing in order to deal with this application, and given that we don't have the agent, I am going to propose that we deal with this application adjournment sine die. Any questions about that from the members? No? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this proposal to adjourn this application sine die? All right. That not seeing anybody come forward. So all those in favor in the panel to adjourn this application sine die for the record, the application is adjourned unanimously. So, all right, so that's it for number 11, which takes us finally, I think, to our agenda. So we're going to start with number 1, looking for Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson. Good evening. I'm just going to need to read to you before we get going. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies, that it was there for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that it was visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Can you either affirm or swear that to be true?
I swear that to be true.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so on this, no presentation required. We know that the application is subject to a site plan. The only question I would have for you just briefly is, what is the status of that site plan at this point?
Okay. When I submitted the application, I let the file lead planner know about this. He's been aware of it for a while, and he responded in an email to me saying, "Good afternoon, Paul. Siobhan has reached out to me to let me know of the hearing. I let her know that I have no concerns with the application, and that we can hopefully wrap this one up shortly after." So it's awaiting this decision.
Oh, all right. So not sure you answered my question though. So have you?
It's very close.
All right. So I'm taking it you've gone through the technical circulations, you've made revisions. Okay. All right. Ms. Kelly, I see your hands up. Do you want to confirm?
Yes, Madam Chair, I can confirm. So the file lead for the site plan indicated that they went through 3 review cycles and there are no outstanding issues or concerns. The only outstanding piece are the variances requested this evening.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Any questions from the panel members? Ms. Willis.
Yes, just a question for the applicant. I noticed as part of this application, a former right-of-way that provided access to the adjacent parking apartment building is being removed and incorporated just as a driveway into this particular plan. Just looking at the adjacent site, it looks like that right-of-way was providing access to some angled parking on the apartment site. And I could be wrong, but I just wanted you to comment on that and whether the removal of this right-of-way in any way jeopardizes the site plan next door and whether those parking spots will have access.
Actually, the right-of-way has been on title for many years, and it's in favor of the property that is to the south, not the property to the west. And the property to the south is a apartment building that's owned and operated by Ottawa Community Housing Corporation. And I believe when it was first built, the driveway for their parking was along the west edge of my client's property. And and subsequently, they have obtained a parcel of land to the east. And now they have vehicular access through a driveway to the east. They no longer need that right of way. And it took a very long time and many groups of people to release that right of way.
And has it been released?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, I'm not seeing any other questions, and I have no speakers on the list. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either for or against this application or make comments? Now's your chance. All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward, so I guess the application is fairly straightforward. The committee has had a chance to discuss the variances beforehand. We don't seem to have any other issues, so I think we can go to a vote. So members of the committee, all those in favor? All right, so for the record, the application for minor variances is unanimously granted. So thank you very much, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye now. All right, looking for applications 5 and 6 for Kingsdale, Mr. Adrian Bashrat. Mr. Beshrat?
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you. So thank you
Beautiful.
for joining us. So we're not going to request a presentation from you. I'm just going to open it up to questions by the panel members.
I've also submitted a presentation if you guys want to look at it.
All right, and we're not, we've had a chance to look at it, so it's a fairly, I'm gonna
And
say
the
not,
oath needs to be administered, Madam Chair.
oh, yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. How did I forget that? All right, Mr. Beshrat, do solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies, that it was there for the prescribed number of days before the hearing, and that it was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I do.
Do you swear or do you affirm, Mr. Beshrat?
Sir?
You swear or affirm?
I affirm.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that then back to questions from the panel members. I don't believe I saw any hands. Nope. All right, Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question, there is a variance application with respect to the front yard parking for the existing dwelling that's to be retained. My understanding is that that driveway, there is a driveway existing that serves that dwelling today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So we're not really introducing a new driveway in this location. There is an existing driveway. I'm correct me if I'm wrong, there may be some relocation of it, but
Relocation of it, that's correct.
but you're essentially maintaining a situation that
Correct.
already exists with respect to driveways.
I'm
You're
confused.
correct, Mr. White.
I didn't think there was a driveway in the front of the house. I thought it was on the side of the house based on my reading.
So
So
it is
we are
on the side of the
relocating.
house.
But there is a driveway that serves the existing dwelling.
On one
Yeah,
of the
but
lots.
it's just being
created.
relocated.
So-
It's being relocated to the front of the house.
Exactly. So there's nothing in front of the house right now because the driveway's on the side. And you're going to be using
You got
that. And that's going to be replaced with a new lot. There we go.
My point, Madam Chair, is that there is a driveway serving this building, whether it's in front of the building or to one side. There is an existing driveway there. There is a driveway proposed here, which appears to violate some provision of the zoning bylaw that concerns the planning staff in terms of its intent. But my point is that there is a driveway there. We're not doing anything that doesn't already really exist on the property.
That is correct.
I think, Mr. White, the issue is the relocation of that driveway. The driveway is fine where it is now, if it wasn't being lost
But
through
it's,
the severance.
Madam Chair, it has to be relocated if there is the driveway to be provided on the property.
Well, that's a good question. So is it Miss Kelly? No, Mr. Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton. Oh, he's not here. It's Miss Kelly?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Hamilton completed the review and wrote the report, but I can speak to any technical questions this evening.
Is there a driveway requirement? Does there have to be a driveway?
Yeah, so parking is required in this location. So they are required to provide parking. From my understanding of the application, the proposed severance results in the removal of the existing garage and the relocation of the driveway. So that essentially creates the illegal front yard parking condition, which contravenes the zoning bylaw. So that's the minor variance piece.
Okay. But Mr. Hendel, go ahead.
Yeah, so Ms. Kelly, I did note though that in the staff report, it is an existing condition in a number of properties in the area, correct? So it would not be out of character for the specific kind of immediate context?
That is correct, Member Hindle. The staff report does reference the existing conditions along this stretch of Kingsdale. Staff mainly had concerns with regards to the test with respect to the intent of the zoning bylaw. It's our understanding that the intent behind prohibiting front yard parking is to ensure that there's a legal parking space on site, and also to ensure that to reduce the visual impact of parking on residential streets. The staff report does note, however, that there would not be any impacts to the streetscape.
Right. And in this case, Ms. Kelly, if we were to maintain the parking in its existing location, would that preclude, I imagine, intensification on the lot, I guess, on the eastern side?
Yes, that's correct. The applicant would not be able to sever to create that additional lot.
Right. So we've got a bit of a trade-off of shifting parking to the front yard, but allowing an extra unit of intensification or an extra lot effectively.
Yes, that is correct, Member Hendel.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Don't have anybody on my speakers list for this. Mr. Barash? Yes, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Basharat.
sorry, I don't know if the members had a chance to review, but in my presentation, I provided a list of about 15 or 20 in about a 1 block radius from the house that have this front yard parking. And inside the presentation, there's also, like if you extend that to another block, there's another 10 or 20, and I've included all the addresses, and I've gone actually and taken pictures as well. So in that presentation, if you just go down, in fact, the front neighbor directly in front of the current property has a front yard parking of 3 cars as opposed to a 2-car. Again, all those pictures and references are all in that document. I don't know if you guys had a chance to review it, or if you want to. I'm happy to go through the presentation. It shouldn't take very long, or if need be.
No, it's not necessary. Thank you, though, Mr. Basharat. Okay, so I think we have. Is there any further questions at this point from the panel members? And did I make a call out to anybody in the audience who would have an interest in the application? You'd like to comment on this application for consent at 1842 Kingsdale Avenue, creation of 2 additional lots? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. So, Mr. Basharat, you've seen all of the conditions?
I have.
You're in agreement with all of the conditions? All right. Well, with that, then, members of the panel, I think we can go to a vote. All those in favor? All right, so for the record, your application is unanimously granted. So good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
All right, then. Have a good evening.
Good evening, guys.
All right, number 7 for 2074 Knightsbridge, looking for Mr. Anderson.
Hello, Madam
Hello,
Chair.
Mr. Anderson, I'm going to need to read to you. So, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies, that it was there for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that it was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I affirm that to be true.
All right, thank you. A couple of housekeeping items, if I understand things. In the planning report, we're going to change just a very, very minorly a description, which says that the owners require the authority of the committee for a minor variance from a zoning bylaw to permit a reduced front yard setback of 5.3 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum front yard setback of 6 meters. Do you agree with that change?
I agree.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's the only one I had. We're not requesting a presentation from you this evening, so I'm going to open it up to questions directly from the panel. Okay, no questions. I also have nobody on my speakers list. So I'm going to open it up to the audience at this point. Anyone want to make any comments or have any questions about this proposal? It's for minor variance that will allow the conversion of an existing balcony into, over the garage, into indoor space for an office. I'm not seeing anybody come forward. Pretty straightforward. We've had a chance to look at the application before we got here this evening and had a chance to discuss it. So committee members, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the application? All right, for the record, the application is unanimously granted. So good luck, Mr. Anderson, with the project.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members.
Have a great evening. All right, looking to number 8, Mr. Scott Alling for 2851 Baycrest Drive.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the panel.
And good evening.
Joining me should be as well Chloe Velson, right, from the client, and Melissa Duplessis, I see, who is the architect. Just speaking to the potential other questions that might arise.
All right, that's good. I do see Ms. Duplessis.
Oh.
And oh yes, I do see Ms. Sorry, is it Vassin, right? All right, so they are here that I can see. Do you need to read to you before we get going? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies, that it was there for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that it was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
Yes, I affirm this to be true.
All right, thank you very much. A couple of housekeeping things. My understanding is that we're deleting a variance. So variance C, that's to permit the side yard setback of 7.28 meters. That variance we are in fact deleting, is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
All right, that's good. I think that's the end of the housekeeping elements that we had to cover. No presentation required from you this evening. We understand that this is part of a site plan process, right?
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
The process is actually fairly advanced.
That's correct. We've gone through 2 circulations and we're preparing the 3rd circulation. We had kind of requested acceptance from the staff planner that we were in a position that a minor variance application would be appropriate to submit. And we received that recommendation with the last circulation. So here we are before you.
All right. So what I'm seeing, essentially, Mr. Alain, is that we have some comments from members of the public. Have you had a chance to see those?
Yes, I have, and I'm happy to speak to them broadly or specifically.
Well, I guess my question is more in relation, because some of these are site planning issues as opposed to, the application before us tonight is relatively simple, right? We've got 2 minor variances that you're essentially looking for. One that has to do with the parking spaces and the other that has to do with the height.
Mm-hmm.
And only for a portion of the building, that's the height, it's not the entire building. So we have some comments from people who are worried about things like traffic, sun blocking, environmental temperatures rising. So a number of these things. Do you know, so I guess I would prefer that some people have a chance to participate in the site planning process so that some of these concerns can be addressed. And I guess have you had a chance to meet with neighbors to talk to them about the site plan at this point? I guess I just need to find out how much communication there has been to date.
Certainly. So to kind of give a brief overview, this site is part of a recent Heron Gate master plan process, which was obviously community involved official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. I can't, just for the record, I was not part of that application process. I came in at the site plan stage. A great deal of community input was received at that time. To this date, we've been working through the site plan process and receiving comments through the standard notification process. At this time, we have not received a request from the councillor to do any further consultation. in the form of community meetings. So this would be the first opportunity to receive in a public forum comments. However, comments have been made on the application throughout the process.
Site planning process, or
Correct.
are you talking about the secondary plan process?
So the secondary planning process, which Hazelview led and could probably speak to in more detail given their involvement with it, was a community-driven process that involved several rounds of consultation and in fact collaboration with the city along the standard secondary plan and community plan process.
And how long ago was that undertaken?
Ms. Felsen-Wright might be able to provide some more information.
Hello. So the official plan was approved at council last year in 2021 in September. So the community consultation occurred up until that point between 2017 and 2021. So it was quite a long process with extensive community consultation, community meetings with residents from the community as well as the greater public.
Okay. And okay, so in the site plan, the amount of consultation with the community?
So we haven't done any additional because this conforms with what we had intended to do in the official plan or in the secondary plan. So we're following the plan that was agreed upon at that time, essentially. And we had also agreed to a consultation and community framework for moving forward with this site to ensure that residents and the community were respected and involved.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. That's my questions. Committee members, does anybody have questions as well? Mr. Handel.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, I guess, related to the first variance. It's my understanding that that would still be in conformity with the 20-meter setback from Heron. So in this case, I imagine we would be tying our approvals to plans as it relates to the 7, because the 7 stories does not apply across the site. It's only in kind of the rear portion of the site, correct?
Correct. Through you, Madam Chair. We're intending to exactly meet the policies of the Heron Gate Master Plan, which require a 45-degree angular plane fronting onto Heron Road, which essentially means that for the first 20 meters, and this is written in specific policy, for the first 20 meters of site depth from Heron Road, 6 stories is the maximum height, and we're complying with that. And then following 20 meters, the height schedule, and not to bog down with the presentation, but the height policies then allow anything from mid-rise up to high-rise. And in the context of this site, we found a 7-story solution that seems to work well with the site. And to answer your question more directly, yes, I would expect this would be tied to the plans. Our intent is not to permit 7 stories fronting onto Heron Road. Our intent is to specifically, allow for the zoning to match what the policy states in this case.
Right. Yeah, because in this case, you would be permitted up to 18 stories, as I understand it, as long as you met the angular plane. Is that how it aligns, or is it the angular plane just for the first 20 meters?
So the way it is written is that the angular plane applies to the first 20 meters, and then you would be subject to transition guidelines for any building height above. At the time of the secondary plan, it was anticipated that 18 stories could meet these transition policies on a narrow floor plate. In this instance, we thought that in terms of the broader master planning of the development, it would be more sensible to transition to a 7-story height that, in fact, as you would have seen in the package, has 4-story projections fronting onto the future internal street.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, I don't have anybody on my speakers list for this application, even though we did get some input from neighbors opposing. That said, is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and ask questions, make comments either for or against the proposal? All right, not seeing anybody come forward. So with that, then I think, members, if there's no further questions, we've had a chance to review the file, so we do know what's going on. Guess we can make a vote. We can go to a vote at this point. So all those in favor of this application for minor variance? All right, so for the record, the application is unanimously granted. And looks like a very interesting project, so good luck. And
Thank you, Chair.
hopefully there's no additional variances that come through through the end of the site planning process. So, so like I said, good luck.
That's the hope. Thank you very much.
Bye now. All right, last but not least, applications 13 and 14 for 1357 Kitchener Avenue. And I'm looking for Ms. Mary Beth Di Sabato.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening, Mr. Segreto. I thought I might see you because I thought we haven't seen your resources name before, Ms. Di Sabato. So I thought maybe you'd show up. So have you got some new people, Mr. Segreto?
I think Ankitsa Bulat may want to speak as well. She is the owner of the property, so I'm not sure if she's going to raise her hand or not, but okay. I know that she'll be attending. Yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, before I go any further, there's a few things we have to do, as you know. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to as part of the application process and by the committee was posted on the property to which the application applies, that it was there for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that it was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I swear to be true.
All right. Thank you. A couple of housekeeping items as well. So I think we're looking at changing a couple of, so my understanding is you actually require less relief from the zoning bylaw standards than what was originally applied for. So I'm just going to read it into the record and you can confirm it. So on A, you're permitting is to permit the increased driveway width of, we're striking 5.78 and replacing it with 4.87 meters.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
On B, we're doing essentially the same to permit an increased driveway width of striking 5.878 meters and replacing with 4.87 meters.
That's correct.
And for E, we are changing the wording to permit a reduced front yard soft landscaping area of, and we're striking 22.1, and the bracketed portion, which is 10.1 square meters, and adding 33.7, and within brackets, 16.94 square meters. Whereas the bylaw requires a minimum front yard soft landscaping area of 35%, striking 15.95 and replacing it with 17 square meters.
That's what I have for E, yes.
Perfect. I believe.
F is deleted totally.
I do not have that in my, let's see. All right, let me just catch up with you. And so what planner did we have? Ms. Kelly. Ms. Kelly, just was that in your original report? I'm just trying to find that.
Yes, Madam Chair, I striked variance F in my report as well.
Okay, just bear with me for a moment. Okay. All right, good. I'm glad because that for whatever reason I'd missed that one completely. So for striking, deleting F is essentially what we're doing from okay. With that, I think that's it in terms of the changes that we need to make. We do have, let's see, do we have any speakers for this one? No, we do not have any speakers, but before we go there, questions from the committee on this application for consent and minor variance. Mr. Hindle and then Ms. Willis.
Mr. Segreto, I know you mentioned it a bit in your report, talking about the extra driveway width that's being requested here. So are you requesting it just basically because there is additional precedent and other houses in the area have it? Or is there a specific rationale for these new lots or new units, why that extra kind of 1.87 meters is desirable or requested in this case?
Mr. Hindle, it's for two reasons. One, the first one, you're absolutely right. When you're looking down the street, you'll see many driveways there that are greater than what we have in front of you. So it's not out of character what we're doing for these two lots to make it a little bit wider. But in addition to that, what we're trying to do also is that we've met the landscape for the two lots, the soft landscape and whatnot. But by having the driveway just a little bit wider allows for another family member to park on the site itself rather than parking in front of the street. And secondly, from a marketing point of view, I believe that the owner, Ankitsa Bulat from Bulat Homes, they think that it's a much better fit to have a 1.5 car garage where they can, you know what I mean? They can have a driveway where it's just a little bit wider to allow a little bit more space for people to park on their property rather than on the road. That's basically it, Mr.
Because in this case, you have are they double car garages, and then it would be
I'm not sure if it's double. I thought it was a 1.5 car garage. I don't know the size of the door. I don't have the size of the door in front of me. But I would tend to think when you're looking at the site plan, it looks to me like it's the green space and whatnot covers over part of the garage. Where it makes it I would say a 1.5 car garage, in my opinion.
Right, because I guess doubles are usually closer to 6 meters as the max.
Yeah, that would be like 6 by 6. Yeah.
Okay, but this additional width basically permits kind of a tight two cars parking side by side on the
site itself, husband and wife, husband and daughter, son, whatever. It just rather than
a single car indoors, basically.
Yeah, and I know the legal parking space is inside the garage, but 90% of the time people just park in front. You know what I mean? We all know that.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Willis.
Question for staff. I think it's Ms. Kelly. Just wondering, these lots, are 12.1 meters in width. I'm just wondering, at what width would a 4.87 meter lot be permitted without need for a variance?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to clarify, Member Willis, do you mean a 4.8 meter driveway would be permitted?
Yeah, the width, but the width, because it's because of the size of the lot that it's limited, correct?
Yes, correct. So the zoning bylaw doesn't permit double wide driveways, which is essentially anything greater than 3 meters on a lot that's under 15 meters.
Under 15, okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, there are no registered speakers for this item this evening. So with that, then I'm going to open it up to the audience. If there's anyone who would like to speak to either the consent or the minor variance applications for this proposal at 1357 Kitchener, now is your chance. All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward on this. All right, so yes, somebody, Ann Kika?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's quite a an echo that we're getting, a feedback from you. Did you want to try again, or did you want to call in?
Madam Chair, I think if it's Ankitsa Bulat, she would be the owner of the property who's trying to get in.
Okay, all right, that's exactly it. At first, all I saw was the first name.
Ankitsa.
Not the, okay. All right, so with that, then I think unless Ms. Bulat calls in, we can actually go to a vote, I think, at this point. But before we do that, Mr. Cigaretto, you've had a chance to look at all the conditions then?
Yes, I've had a look at all the conditions. The only one that I question a little bit is the noise study one. I'm not too clear on the railway, how close that railway is, but if it is something that has to be done, then I believe that the owners are going to be okay with that. I'm not sure if that's a full report on the noise study that we have to do with respect to this railway line that may be there or may be there in the future. But the other conditions, the overlays, the Cashew of parkland grading, and all the other general ones are fairly straightforward.
Ms. Kelly, would you like to address the noise study?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The trigger for the noise study in this application is actually Kitchener Ave and Albion Road. So Kitchener and Albion are identified, or excuse me, classified as collector roads in the official plan. And the official plan requires a noise study when a property is located within 100 meters and the property proposes a sensitive use such as residential. So that's essentially the trigger for the noise study. In terms of the railway, our engineering staff requested the standard warning clause, which I believe is condition 7.
Okay, I see that. Does that answer your question, Mr. Segreto?
Yep, I get it.
All right. So we're leaving everything as is?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we can, like I said, we can go to a decision then. I'll start with the consent applications. So all those in favor? All right. For the record, the consent application is unanimously granted, subject to the conditions that were outlined in the staff report. And on the minor variance application, all those in favor? All right. For the record, the application is also granted unanimously. So good luck, Mr. Segreto, with the project.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, have a great evening.
You too.
I need and that's it for our agenda this evening, folks. I need a motion to adjourn. Member Willis, seconded by Member White. With that, I'd like to thank our committee members. I didn't do that this time at the beginning of our hearing, but certainly we do appreciate all of your help in getting all of this, these online hearings coordinated and up and running and the material available. So thank you so much for all of your efforts as usual. Ms. Byers, I think we've got Mr. Jones and Ms. Nguyen, as well as Mr. Belmar, who's always keeping us on the straight and narrow and can point out when I've forgotten things like the declaration. So much appreciated. Also want to thank our planners, Ms. Kelly, Ms. Lazaro. Appreciate your support as always. And Ms. Young, even though we didn't hear from you this evening, it's always good to know that you're there if we need your guidance. So have a great evening, everyone. And we'll see you in about 2 weeks. All right then. Good night, everyone.